They are threatening to sue me for defamation because of comments I made on my podcast about a message that he sent me. They want me to remove content, issue a public apology, and stop talking about him. I'm not going to do any of that.
All right, guys, we have a bombshell of a story coming out of Congress right now. A sitting member of Congress just tried to put a muzzle on a Navy SEAL, and it might have just blown up in his face. Sean Ryan says that Dan Crenshaw is suing him after he questioned how a congressman on a measly $174,000 a year salary can afford a DJ, Steve Aoki, playing at some parties, private parties, and then also bringing up the point of perfectly timed stock trades. And instead of answering those questions, Dan Crenshaw, sitting member of Congress, former Navy SEAL, sent a cease and desist letter to Sean Ryan asking him to take down a video, and if he doesn't, he's going to sue him. So today we're breaking this down, what this lawsuit really means, why Americans are tired of politicians getting rich in office, and why this fight isn't about two veterans. It's about transparency, accountability, and who gets to ask the questions in this country. Let's talk about what's happening here, because this is bigger than just two guys on the internet. This is a sitting U.S. congressman, Dan Crenshaw, sending a legal threat, and Sean thinks a physical threat to a Navy SEAL because he didn't like being asked how he got rich while holding public office. Sean didn't accuse him of crimes. He didn't make wild claims. He asked a question that millions of Americans have been asking for years. And I believe this case is going to really cause a ripple effect in the 2026 midterms and could very well have massive effect in Congress, in the Senate, to get some legislation passed so that congressmen, senators, elected officials cannot get rich on information that they have direct effect on. But how does a congressman making less than $200,000 afford the lifestyle of a tech CEO? Let's hear it right from Sean.
I want to address something directly with all of you who've supported this show and made it what it is today. On December 9th, 2025, I received a legal demand letter from lawyers representing Congressman Dan Crenshaw. They are threatening to sue me for defamation because of comments I made on my podcast about a message that he sent me. They want me to remove content, issue a public apology, and stop talking about him. I'm not going to do any of that. Let me give you full context so you can judge for yourself. What I originally said a while back, I commented on my show about Congressman Crenshaw throwing an extremely expensive party and the fact that he seems to have become quite wealthy during his time in Congress. I raised questions about how a Congress...
Look at this. This is the flyer from Dan Crenshaw's birthday party where he turned 40. He had a party on a Saturday night in Heights Social, Houston, Texas, with a country music legend. It says private performance. And then the next night, March 17th, another party with Steve Aoki, this DJ. How does a sitting member of Congress do this? Number one, is it just rubbing your nose in it as a voter? But this is from Dan Crenshaw's own X page. So Dan, don't send your lawyers here to Arkansas.
Making $174,000 a year can afford that kind of a lifestyle. These are legitimate questions. And to be honest, I didn't even mention Dan Crenshaw's name in that initial conversation. I just brought up the fact that he was having Steve Aoki, a major DJ, spin at his party.
And then, let's fast forward a couple years and they got Steve Aoki DJing their 40th birthday party. How does that happen?
I don't have firsthand experience in this.
This is Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence. Well, now I hope she gets involved. Now I hope there's an investigation that is brought up. Discovery, if this goes to court, is going to be interesting.
Often question the same thing.
These are legitimate questions. Multiple news outlets have reported on concerns about congressional insider trading and members of Congress, including Congressman Crenshaw, actively trading stocks while having access to non-public information that affects those very stocks.
That is the big problem here, is that members of Congress have direct access to information that affects the budget, the defense spending budget. It affects everything that you do. This post is by Wall Street Apes going back last year, December of 2024. Dan Crenshaw is having a meltdown on X. Be a shame if everyone shared this. Dan Crenshaw caught lying about the amount of money he has in stocks and beating the market insider trading. On the right, March 2024, he had $150,000 in stocks.
Fucking money I've ever had in the stock market, about $20,000. And yet I've been dragged through the mud on this as if like there's some insider trading. And why not? Don't let us trade stock. How about we'll just keep whipping ourselves. How about we don't make any money either? How about like just cut our paychecks?
So there is Dan Crenshaw cooking himself. March 2024, he had 150K, outperforming the market up 110%. His current net worth is estimated at $4.4 million on a $174,000 salary.
I'm not the only person asking these questions, but apparently I'm the one that got under Dan's skin. After I made those comments, Congressman Crenshaw sent me an Instagram message. I'm going to publish the actual screenshot so you can see for yourself right here. Here's what it says. Hey, Sean, you have the ability to contact your fellow team guy if you've got a problem with me or have questions about how I'm getting rich. Some of my boys at 6 told me about your indirect swipe at me. From the comment you made, it sounds like you have some beliefs that are based on trendy narratives instead of facts. Now, let me be clear about what I saw when I read that message. A sitting United States congressman who happens to be a former Navy SEAL sent me a message saying, my boys at 6 told me about my criticism of him.
A little bit of a threat, maybe a little bit of pressure. Dan Crenshaw replied last night on X, sorry, Sean, but it's not believable that a fellow SEAL actually read this message and believed I was threatening to, quote, whoop his ass. I mean, you take that for what it's worth, but if someone, a sitting member of Congress with a hell of a lot of power and former Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6 guy sends me that, I'm in a different space in life where I might take the video down, but Sean Ryan obviously isn't playing those games. And I probably wouldn't take the video down. I would probably do exactly what Sean is doing and exposing these people.
My boys at 6. That means SEAL Team 6, Development Group, the most elite special operations unit in the United States military and arguably the world. When I received that message, in the context of me criticizing him, I interpreted it as threatening. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he just meant that some guys he used to work with told him about my comments and he wanted to have a friendly chat. But that's not how it read to me, and I said so on my podcast. Now here's a clip of Congressman Dan Crenshaw literally saying if he ever meets Tucker Carlson, he will fucking kill him.
Have you ever met Tucker?
We've talked a lot. He's the worst person.
So I'm just curious, what would you think if Congressman Dan Crenshaw sent you a message saying his boys at 6?
Now that's where everything changes, is the video of Dan Crenshaw making a physical, violent threat against Tucker Carlson, saying he would effing kill him. This changes the entire game, changes the entire dynamic. Sean Ryan has a family. I'm sure he's got kids. He's got staff members. So Dan Crenshaw crossed the line. Then everybody kind of like let it fly. But now it's come back. This is a boomerang with a lot of poop on it, and it just hit Sean in the head. This is where things really take a wrong turn for him. As soon as you start affecting a member of Congress's wallet, their capability to continue to earn money, or their ability to remain in office, the game changes. And this is from John Israel. The FEC, Federal Election Commission, fines Dan Crenshaw for taking over $220,000 in illegal campaign contributions. And I'm sure he got fined about $27. But this is real. This is what happens. And this isn't the first time that Texas Republicans have run, afoul in these federal election laws. Here's another one that is very interesting. Dan Crenshaw has taken over $230,000 from a pro-Israel lobby, AIPAC. AIPAC bad, all right? So a sitting member of Congress is taking money from a foreign lobby group. Once you start affecting the wallets of elected officials, they get really dangerous. They get really dicey. They get really spicy, and they will try to shut you down. Here's the actual letter from 2021 where Dan Crenshaw was sent a letter to Secretary Mayorkas and Secretary Blinken advocating for a special immigrant visa program to allow the invasion of people that shouldn't really be here. Signed, Dan Crenshaw. So this is a sitting member of Congress. Former Navy SEAL, advocating for a special immigration visa for people to come into our country. Signed, Dan Crenshaw.
After he threatened to kill Tucker Carlson. Now his lawyers are claiming that my interpretation of his message is defamation. They say I accused him of threatening me with assault, which is a crime, and that I need to publicly apologize and remove the content from my show. Here's my response. No. I'm publishing their full demand letter along with my lawyer's response so that you can read both and decide for yourself whether my interpretation was unreasonable. This isn't really about whether I misunderstood a message. This is about whether a sitting member of Congress can use the threat of an expensive litigation to silence criticism. I asked questions about Congressman Crenshaw's wealth. Those questions are fair game.
Guys, what are your thoughts on this? Should a sitting member of Congress be allowed to, number one, threaten someone for free speech? Number two, send a cease and desist letter asking him to delete the episode and demand that he issue a public apology and stop talking about him. This is what regular Americans are fed up with. The idea that we, the people, elect people to represent us, and then they're above being questioned. They think criticism's disrespect. They think transparency is optional. And when someone pushes back, they grab a lawyer instead of giving an honest answer, and they threat you. And now Sean Ryan pointed out something that raised eyebrows everywhere. At one of Crenshaw's events, you've got a world-class DJ making millions. We're talking six-figure booking fees. That's not some backyard birthday party. That's more than Dan makes in a year. And now, naturally, people wonder, how does a congressman pay for something like this? These are the same questions that journalists, ethics groups, and even members of Congress have talked about for years. The insider trading concerns, the stock portfolios that outperform everyone else's, the well-timed buys and sells that magically aligned with closed-door briefings. You don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be a Republican or independent to see the pattern. You just have to be paying attention. And where it gets really even more interesting is Sean showed the Instagram message with this veiled threat that Dan Crenshaw sent him. And in that message, my boys at 6 told me about your comment. And for an average person, you get a letter or you get a message from a congressman with the mention of his boys at SEAL Team 6, you're going to be scared. You're going to be intimidated. How many other people has Dan Crenshaw intimidated for questioning some of his decisions? Maybe he meant nothing by it. Maybe it was sloppy wording. You don't bring the elite special forces into a conversation about criticism unless you're flexing a little bit. That's how it came across to Sean Ryan and a whole lot of other people. And when Sean responded on his show saying he interpreted the message as threatening, Crenshaw claimed it was defamation. You know what this feels like? This feels like classic Washington, D.C. checker match. How dare you question me? Stay in your lane. Don't look behind that curtain. But here's the problems. Americans are done with staying quiet. We've watched politicians get rich in public office while our paychecks shrink. We've watched them trade stocks during crises while families struggle. We watch them spend more time attacking critics than answering basic questions. And now we're watching them threaten a member of the public. So when Sean says he's not backing down, I think millions of people have Sean's back. The real problem is this opens the door for a Democrat to run against Dan Crenshaw down in Texas. Will an organization like Black Rifle Coffee step in and help him get reelected? They helped him get elected before. I'd ask that question again. It's very common open knowledge that that's exactly what happened. You can agree with it or not. I've seen the campaign video that they helped put together for him. So there you go. That's the video for this morning. Friday, December 12th. Big story. Sean Ryan versus Dan Crenshaw. Love to get your comments down below. Let me know what you're thinking here. Did Dan put his foot in his mouth? And is Sean going to comply? Sean's already said he's not. What is the next step? Does Dan Crenshaw walk away embarrassed? Or do we go to court and we get discovery and then we get to see exactly how much money Sean Ryan can prove that Dan Crenshaw has been taking and making on the backs of the American people? Take care. I'll see you in the next one.